Good morning and welcome to the Rewind Show, the Sunday supplement 202, bang on 9 o'clock. I don't know how we managed to do it, but we have. I'm happy to say we're here. I'm Steve Brown, as always, and over there, as always, is Brent Peters.
And I'm Brent Peters. How are you doing?
How are you doing? You've not just got an audience on TV, but you've got an audience in the club this morning.
Correct. I've got my trusted Mr. Nick Fields here sat there. I hope he keeps in control of himself and doesn't start winking talking, because he'd talk a glass eye to sleep.
He said he's going to be quiet as a mouse.
But talking of which, there's plenty of them are knocking about here at the minute.
Hey, shut up! You got a 4-star for your food.
Look at that. I think we're running in because we keep keeping this door open. I don't know where they're coming from.
How you doing, mate?
I'm all right. I'm good.
Yeah, excellent win yesterday. We're going to come on to that in a bit, but it was a good showing by the lads. And yet again, Brent, you mentioned it in your team talk before the Ratcliffe game about supporters. We've got some fantastic fans, haven't we, mate?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Fantastic. They turned out in numbers again yesterday and turned up at Thornton Cleveleys. And you know what? We've been a couple of weeks back on the show. We're knocking people going to the foul course because of the weather. But, you know, a nice day yesterday, weren't it? Blue skies. It were quite pleasant. Yeah. And you know what? I've got to say this about, I know we've got fantastic supporters, and it's just great that they watch us home and away, and it's great for these clubs as well, because if you think about it, if you took our I would have thought there were probably about 50 of our fans there yesterday. Yeah. And if you take them 50 away from and look what would have been left, there won't be that many left. So, you know, the fact that our fans go in numbers and supporting the lads, which we're really grateful for, it's also helping some of these clubs that don't get. I mean, we've been in that situation where we've not really had good support. You know, we've built that over the years, and a lot of it's probably come down to, you know, this group as well, you know, that's enhanced that, you know, with the way that we play football, and we're expansive, and we're good to watch. I mean, listen, I'm not here to compare about Burnley. I mean, I predicted the unwanted Scott Parker to get the Burnley job, but when they haven't had a centre forward, but you know, they struggled in that area.
When they stripped him bare after about 2 weeks of management.
Yeah, but you know, credit to him. I mean, you know, they got a. Did they get it? Were it 0-0 yesterday? 0-0. They didn't concede. So he's built a side there that don't concede, but they're probably not the best to watch. You know what I mean? But listen, it's about points on the board and consolidating when you know that you've got a problem. And he's done that in abundance. So the point what I'm trying to make is, you know, these lads that we've got now, even the fact that we get a blinking stuffing the last time we went on the foul course, right? Yeah. I didn't actually think we played bad. And if you go there and went there and take the blinking politics away from it and look at that game with AFC Blackpool, it was a very, very good game to watch. If you're a neutral, it was a good game to watch. And you know, so the point what I'm trying to make is that if you're entertaining, the fans will come, because it's if you're dull and dour, you know, they're not going to come through the gate. But if you're entertaining, and I have to say, you know, that even in defeat, in the main, our lads have been entertaining, or there's some entertainment somewhere along the line. So it's always good to watch. And so it were pleasing that we had the numbers that we had. And also, I've got to give. That's the first time I've been to Thornton Cleveleys. You know, I was quite impressed. I was really impressed, and they've got it right there. You know, I mean, the clubhouse epitomised on a style of the similar club. I took a picture probably a few seasons ago when we knew we were, you know, before we knew whether we were staying here at this ground or we were being relocated. I took a picture of the clubhouse at I think it's Walshaw Football Club. And it run a similar style to their clubhouse. I quite liked it. I quite liked the style. I quite liked everything about it. And you know what? I felt that, you know, everything about the facilities, they got it right, even to the point that just right on the as you go in the entrance. I mean, yesterday, Deborah had a granddaughter, Iris, with her, and so, but there are kiddies park right outside. Now, I talk about, when our Natalie goes watching Reese, when our Natalie goes watching Matt James when he was at Bristol City like last season.
Yeah,
they're big for the kids. It's a family day, and they have an area where the kids can play. So it keeps the kids entertained.
It's isn't it?
It's a community, yeah, exactly. So when we pulled up yesterday and I seen that little park, it was only little, but it served a purpose. It was enough, and it kept young Iris occupied throughout the match. Yeah. So I thought everything about them, they had everything right, and I were really impressed. And what really did impress me as well, more than anything, it impressed me the fact that most people with a facility like that would now be going down the realms of a plastic crap pitch, right? Which I'm against them, right? Yeah. It wasn't. It was a grass pitch, so it made everything. So everything about that facility. I mean, you look at Darwin. Darwin's a good setup, but it's a fucking shit bloody plastic pitch, right? Yeah. Whereas there, it's a good facility, but it's a grass pitch.
It was a grass pitch, yeah, I know what you mean. And it looks like the groundsman's been working hard. I saw him before the game, because I think their reserves must play on that pitch as well, because this time of the season, it's taken a battering, that pitch, hasn't it?
Hey, but listen, one thing I said to Alan Taylor and Nigel Langley, two of my coaches, when we were talking before the game, I said, there's only one thing, and they're in the right area to do it. I said, there's just one thing missing on this pitch today, which would have made it a really, really good surface. And I'm not here to tell the groundsman how to suck eggs. I'm not here to do that. Do you know what it needed? It needed drag matting. No, seriously. It needed drag matting. If it had been drag matted, all the knobbles on the top where it were a bit bobbly would have all been taken out. So and it was firm enough to do. It was good enough to do. There wasn't a problem. So if that had been drag matted, that pitch would have been absolutely pitch perfect.
You should be charging a consultancy fee for you.
Listen. Nick Fowles is sat over there as I speak, and we've just gone down behind the goals. We went to put some rubbish in the bin, and he's talking to me. And when he's coming back up, he's gone, I'm amazed. Look at that pitch.
Oh, it is. It is.
I'm amazed. That's what he said. And I said, you know what? That pitch has not been touched. And I'm, as true as I'm sat on this chair, I said, that pitch has not been touched since the night we played Radcliffe.
Yeah. But it's been
it's not been touched, but it's been protected. And he's seen it, looked at it this morning, and he's gone, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's managed to kind of, it's settled by itself.
Yeah, exactly. Correct.
Yeah. Let's get on to football, because we've got quite a few talking points. We're going to talk about J-Rod moving to Wrexham. We're going to talk about Marcus Rshford, what's going on there at United. Still a bit of a soap opera going on down at Old Trafford. Also, I want to mention later on Duran, Aston Villa player who's decided to up sticks and set off for Saudi Arabia at the age of 21. Not something I'm not really interested in, but I want to chat about that. And of course, big talking point really is yesterday's win at Thornton Cleveleys. And I did mention on comms, Brent, and you want to mention it as well, but you made the substitutions quite early. Usually it's around about 15 minutes before then, but you made them early, and that seemed to be the turning point of the game, because we just needed that extra 5 or 10% from where I was seeing the game, and that's exactly what it was in the end. But it was a good game.
Yeah, right. So if I break this down, it's like in any game. You know what has to happen. The players at the beginning, not every team play a kind of a regimented, straightforward system. Right now, when that happens, sometimes in the heat of battle, when a game's frantic and ferocious, the players can't really identify what's happening because things are moving very, very quickly. So, they're trying to engage against the men who they feel that they're against, but they might not be against. So if that makes sense. So what has to happen, and we do it every game, the most important part of it is that I've got to get to make sure that our midfield players are identified against the right men, so that at least we've got a foothold in where it matters, in the middle of the park. And going to yesterday's team in Thornton Cleveleys, and let me tell you, irrespective of the results, I thought Thornton Cleveleys was a good side. I mean, they were a good side when they came here. I mean, they snatched a late, correct me if I'm wrong, but they snatched a late point. I think we were winning the game going into the closing minutes. I think we were winning, we're at 3-2. I think we were winning 3-2, and then I'll not mention it, but I will mention it.
I thought they won't beat us 3-2 early on in the season.
Oh, well, it might be 3-2 to them. Yeah. We lost it. It must have been to a peak. Did we lose at the end?
We lost.
I remember that one of our most experienced centre half had a rush of blood on the night.
Yeah.
And come steamrolling out. Was indisciplined in his defending, went to ground, absolutely missed the ball and the man and everything, and the lad skipped through and went through and put it in a blinking net, and that, and from that he disappeared. He got the winner. That's right, and then the player in question disappeared into the wilderness because he was not to be seen then, because he'd already got an holiday booked, and he got away from the ground, so he didn't get it, and he was still travelling wherever he was travelling on an aeroplane. He could hear my voice ringing in his ears because it was a crazy situation, right? But anyway, so what I'm saying is, and that were early on in the season, and they actually, they did well here at Bay Cup, and let's get it right, they are a good side, so to go up there on their own ground, that even makes the win extra special. But let's just break it down again. Is that, again, what I'm trying to say is that probably in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you might say 15 minutes, I don't know, but in the early members of the game, we hadn't got a grip of it. And the reason we hadn't got a grip of it, we hadn't got a grip of how they were lining up. And they kind of lined up, and I sussed it straight away, basically. They were playing a 3 and a 1 in front, right? That's how they were playing. They played a 3, 1 in front, and then they kind of had a 4, and then they had you could say 2, or a 1-1, right? Because the number 10 were dropping in between the lines, right? So that's how they were lined up. Now, that, for the lads, well, the game's frantic and thing, it was, we were all over the place a little bit at the minute, because what started to happen originally at the start, Callum were picking 10 up, but 10 really should have been, what should have happened is what happened after, is the defence 10 was actually a striker playing between the lines, dropping off. So what should have happened is we should have taken the line, defensive line off number 10. That's what should have happened. From that point, then we would have been able to match up all the midfield players. Now, eventually, when we got to it, and like I said, the game was frantic, and that's when we didn't, and that's when we went to goal behind, when we hadn't got settled. But eventually, what we had to do, just momentarily, because 4 were creating a little bit of a problem at the other end, because he was sat in front of their back 3. What tended to happen is that we were. It would confusing the midfield players, because they were always had a spare midfield player who were an extra man in there, and they shouldn't have had an extra man in there. So we could settle it down and get it organised. We had to drop Toby onto the 4, just to face 4, right, initially, and then we could backtrack from that. And once we got it sorted, and then give instructions, like eventually we got Michael Gervin onto the 4. Right, which was correct. Then we got Callum picking a midfield player up. I think it was 6 he had, and then we had Malachi picking 8. We were sorted because 10 were like kind of, as I said, dropping between the lines, but he was actually a striker. So obviously he's got to be dealt with by the 2 centre halves. So once we got organised with that, and that comes from our help on the sidelines, because obviously, while the game's frantic and everything, they can't sort that out on the pitch. Even if you had leaders, because the game's that fast and frantic and running around. But us on the sidelines, we can see it. So then that's what we did. And once we got organised and once we got it sorted, I think I've got to say there were only one team going to win that game. Once we got it sorted, I mean, I read the manager's comments online, and listen, you get it all the time. I like to think that when I come on this show, if my lads have not turned up, or if my lads have been poor, or I'll be honest, because that's how we've got to be.
Well, that's what the show's for.
Exactly. So, but I didn't, and he's saying, we missed plenty of chances early on in the game. Well, I didn't see him miss loads of chances. I haven't seen anything. I didn't see anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. They've knocked a ball over the top of Brady, right? A straight ball. It's got whipped across, right? Which was a good ball in, and then a runner's got it and he's tapped it in. Now, from that moment, even before that, I don't recall any saves, and you correct me because you're on comms, but I haven't got it wrote down on my notes. I can't remember any saves of any consequence of anything that Billy's had to make. I don't see any saves. No. I see some shots going on from distance, and that's thinking going wide of the goal or going over the top of the goal. But I don't call them chances.
No, it's not. I can't think of anything which has made Billy pull off a fantastic save to deny a goal.
I don't. And so when I read his comments, I mean, if you read his comments, it's kind of like misleading, because it's like as though, and if anything, once we got a grip of it in the first half, and I've wrote it down here, these are the words I've put on, right, on my notes. I've used FFS, chances. Well, FFS means for fuck's sake, chances, meaning us.
Because before we scored...
Because we missed loads of bloody chances. And I mean chances were literally tap-ins in front of goal.
Because as we started to turn the screw in the second half of the first half, so like that, about from 20 minutes onwards, you could see we were going to score.
We always looked a threat, and we looked very, very dangerous. I've got to say that. And one thing... even I mean, the good thing about our equaliser, which was good,
follow the ball
is exactly. We get a free kick, and Callum has done brilliant because he's followed it in, and he's got and at the same time, I mean, Toby, there's a bit of a debate who actually got the final touch. I know from where I were, and I've got to be honest here. Toby got the second touch. He kind of helped. Yeah, Toby got it. For me, from where I were, Callum did brilliant where he got in and followed him. But I don't actually think it would go over the line at that point. And Toby come in and got the next touch and kind of went in. Listen, I'm not bothered.
Nazi, get it changed.
I haven't been on yet, so I don't know. I don't know, but I'll get it changed anyway. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Toby got the final touch. But it doesn't matter who got the final touch. To give praise,
following the ball in.
Exactly, that's the one, Steve. They followed it up. They weren't like rabbits in the headlights, expectating and watching. It was followed in.
Brent, I said, we knew the goalkeeper was kind of struggling slightly with crosses into the box, and he wasn't able to hold the ball. I said, if Gervin can concentrate on just hitting the target and then get bodies in and around on the ball, there's a chance we might steal something. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly. We're good, and we fully deserved the equaliser. Once the first 10, 15 minutes, till we got organised, till we got sorted out, till we got a grip of how they lined up. Until we got a grip of all that, right? The fact of the matter is, they were, even though they were bossing proceedings at that point, because we were a little bit all over. They had an extra man, and we were a little bit all over the place. I didn't feel. I thought the goal were, well, from their point of view, they'll say it were a good goal, but from our point of view, I thought I thought we should have dealt with it better. I thought, where that ball came in, I've got a question. Could Billy have done better, because it weren't really in the air; it were on the ground. He could have dived over it, in my opinion. And who's tracked the runner that's coming in that's actually finished it? Let's not cut away from the chase. Them are situations that I'd be asking questions on. Yeah. The balls have been allowed to come in. That's one. Could our goalkeeper have dealt with it and gone down over it? But the most important one is, the ball weren't any danger. The dangers come from the man that's connected with the ball, that's run in and put it in the net. Yeah. So where's his tracker? Where's his man who's supposed to be marking him?
But as you say, Brent, though, once you'd kind of suss the situation out, we looked pretty much, we looked in good shape after that.
We looked in control and good shape, exactly, and we were creating chances, and that were pleasing, and that's why I said, we're going at half time 1-1, and we're really pleased with how we galvanised ourselves together and got a grip, and it weren't because of anybody even in that first 10 minutes. Again, they threw a curve, but this is what I'm saying about teams. If some teams throw at you a different kind of a shape, that's not straightforward, they need a bit of a leg up. They need help to sort out what's going on, and that's where we come in. That's where the bench has got to come in and sort it out. Forget what's going on out there. There are a couple of times where I had to turn around, come on, say to my coach, come on, never mind telling them how to pass a ball or how to do that. We need to get this sorted because we're not right. Yeah. And then once we got it right, it was sorted. So once we did that, we were right and we were in control, and I was really pleased. And it comes back to, that was the team that went out against Radcliffe Borough, right? That was the same team. And anybody who thought that I would change that team must have lost their marbles, because there were never going to be any change in that. No. That was the team. Now, what I'm saying is, if we look at our league form, we've been inconsistent in our league form. Yeah. Several scenarios have come into that. For instance, again, colossal in midfield was Callum and Malachi. There was different class.
Work rate.
But complimenting them too in there was your captain, Michael Gervin, who's a different kind of a player, who's more, when he's on it, he's more like a player that will unlock a door and plays with vision and plays more often than not forward, and he will get people in, and that's Michael's game, right? When he's on it, that's his game. So all the three of them, in my opinion, and that's why I went with these three against Radcliffe. In my opinion, if they're on it, that is the three in there, because I have been critical over the season that our midfield has been like as weak as it's powder puff, but that is because we've had certain players in there, and this isn't being detrimental to those players, but it's been circumstances. It's not because Brent Peters hasn't picked Callum Hewitt. Brent Peters hasn't been able to pick Callum Hewitt because Callum Hewitt's been ill. Brent Peters hasn't been able to pick Callum Hewitt because Callum Hewitt's has had a bit of an injury, and he's been carrying an injury. So there's been reasons why Callum Hewitt hasn't been selected to play, right? Not because he's been left out because he's been playing under par. That's not been the case. So it's a numbers game. So when you look at, and then Malachi Clark, let's be honest, earlier on in the season, right, he was a regular in the team in the season. And then let's backtrack to, because people have short memories, let's backtrack to his situation. He's then in a situation where at the start of the season, and how things changed, he was in a job where he was away on a training exercise down in blinking Wiltshire somewhere. Yeah, so he wasn't even around. And he wasn't available, and certain games he couldn't get back because if you remember, I was trying to get his touch with with his management to see if they'd release it.
Game, I think it was a Southport game. No,
it could have been. But and then at the start of this season, he was in and he was like a kind of a regular. And then there were his issues. He was having a little bit of a meltdown, which through nothing to do with football, which is his private life, away from the club in terms of his job and one thing and another.
He took his eye off the ball.
He took his eye off the ball. There was issues there. So he wasn't really available. So when you've lost your two, what you consider to be probably, I wouldn't say your best midfield, but the ones who would give you that bit extra in terms of aggression and commitment. So when you lose them, you've still got to fill your midfield, but then you're putting people in who are more technical but not physical.
Yeah, they can't carry the piano, so Michael Gervin can play it.
Exactly, that's a good way of putting it. So the issue you've got, we're kind of weak now. Them players who's gone in there. And for whatever reason, like when they start to, obviously, when they're now available, when Callum and Malachi are available, and I've opted to go with them because I feel the right now to go with them. And obviously, the first game properly were the Radcliffe game, where I've actually said on here, I'm going to pick a team that's going to go toe to toe, with them and go and really speaking, it didn't matter whether it's the Radcliffe game or it's a normal league game. In all fairness, the North West Counties League as a league demands that. That's the kind of league it is. You need to have physicality in your team. You've got to have players that are going to go up and stand up and be countered, and especially in the engine room. And if you haven't got them players, then you're not going to be the team or as good a team as you think you are. You've got to have that mixture and that blend. You cannot go into a midfield arena with full of technically good players. Somebody's got to win that ball. Somebody's got to be physical. And also you look at the work rate that both them, Callum and Malachi, put in when they're in there. They're running all over and they're athletes and they can get around the pitch. There are certain other players in the team, like might be technically very, very good and are technically very good, right? But they haven't got that same engine. They ain't got that work rate, that work ethic. They ain't got that. So they might gain on one thing but lose on another. But if you're in a midfield, you've got to have the work rate. That's a given in midfield, 100%. Right, and your aggression's got to be there as well. And if you haven't got that, then you that's the difference between teams going through you and trying to breach our defence. And it's also the difference between us not blinking, getting forward and supporting our front line. Yeah. So consequently, them have been the situations. Now going back to yesterday's game. Even partway through the game, I knew Michael Gervin were never going to last that game, right? Let's be honest, he's come through. He hasn't been because of his situation, and because not just Michael Gervin, this is the team. The way these fixtures are going and playing and then not playing and then playing and then not playing for a couple of weeks and all, it's madness. And listen, I'm not here to start knocking the North West Counties or having a go, but they've got to take a long hard look at themselves because, I read about it. I mean, it's like it's like the other week when we played at Darwin over Christmas period. Darwin they're on a 3G pitch. This is the mentality of the league when they're doing fixtures. They're on a 3G pitch. The weather is turning, right? And they've put Darwin at home, back-to-back home games over the Christmas period, and they've got a 3G pitch, right? And one of the teams they were playing at their ground also have a 3G pitch. So basically, they've ended up putting a team, which is Uxton, right, playing Darwin, I think, at Darwin, right? So Uxton were playing at Darwin on a 3G pitch, which means Uxton's 3G pitch is free, right? We're in a weather where it's turning. The grass pitches were getting blinking called off.
You've wasted an opportunity there.
You've wasted an opportunity to make sure that Uxton's at home and Darwin's at home, right? And then you've got two games playing on 3G pitches.
Yeah.
But instead, the fixtures have turned out. Darwin's at home back-to-back. How do you get that one back-to-back home games? We've just seen advertised even on Thornton Cleveleys yesterday. Exactly the same thing's been coming out. We've now got 3 home games on the bounce. How does that work out, 3 home games?
But then on the other side, you've got Aston Athletic, who haven't played at home since October.
Correct. And then you look, when we, apart from the Radcliffe game, look when we were the last date we played at home. And we're due to play at home on Saturday against AFC Blackpool. And hey ho, have you seen the forecast? There's blinking snow coming next weekend. And it's sod's law that when the snow coming, it's sod's law, it will drop on Bacup because of where we are.
Yeah.
So the chances are that's in doubt already, if that arrives. So it's madness. But I'm not here to blinking, at the end of the day, they need to take a look and take some responsibility. And the fact of the matter is, they put these cup matches in on a Saturday, right? And and that's what happens. As soon as you go out the cups, right, they can't then possibly match some. Oh, well, hang on, Bacup can't play this week because the team that they were due to play this week is still in the cup. So, and we can't match them because they've already played so-and-so. So they end up with no game.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
No revenue.
It's no revenue. It's a fucking worry at the minute. Seriously, I'm telling you, it is a concern because we ain't got the cash flow and we ain't got the revenue coming in, and it's madness, and it's absolutely madness what's going on, right? But they don't give a flying, they don't give a blinking, they're not bothered. And then you send an email in and then you get a blinking big essay coming back, why and where for, and we haven't just got Bacup Borough to think about. No, I get that. No. You've got all the team, but it's not just Bacup Borough we're talking about.
We're all suffering.
We're all suffering. Everybody's in the same boat. And why are certain teams getting back-to-back home games like that? It's madness. It's no thought. But anyway, that's another story.
But moving on to the substitutions you made yesterday, Brent, because for me, that was the turning point of the game. We got back in the game at 1-1, and I could see in the second half, they had a couple of early chances, going forward, but then we took control of the game. And I thought, just give another 5 or 10%, we could break them down.
I said going off at half-time. This was walking off at half-time. I turned around to Nigel, and I said to Nigel, Gervin won't last. I'll give him 10 minutes. Gervin's not going to last. And I said, it's crying out for Joel. It's crying out, and I'll guarantee, seriously, as soon as I'm sat here, I went, he will score. He will score in this game, right? Because of just the way he is. Now, if you look, let's take Joel and let's take Conor Morris, right? Two very, very good players, but different.
Yeah, massive.
One is totally expansive, quick, dynamic. The other is more probably cultured.
Right, okay.
So your Joe Booth is quick, dynamic.
Yeah. Constantly busting a gut for the ball.
Busting a gut. Because he's expansive and get in, he'll stretch teams, he'll make teams so, because teams will get worried about him because of his pace. Yeah. Whereas Conor Morris is more cultured. And when I say cultured, he's very, very good on the ball. He's astute.
But
he's got great vision. He's got great vision. He can use the ball and he can score goals.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I look at it this way: if you've got a defensive line playing against Conor, and you keep Conor in front of you, you're comfortable. Yeah. If you play a defensive line and you've got Joel in the team,
you don't know where he's going.
They're not comfortable because he's all over the place, right? And they'll be stretched because of that. So as a manager, right, you've got a toss-up here, right? And the way the game's going, that doesn't mean to say that. So when I made that decision of taking Michael Gervin off, and let's talk about the number 10 position, we don't play a number 10 as a number 10, what everybody thinks is a number 10's role. Because in theory, a number 10 is usually a striker, a forward, or somebody playing between the lines. We do not play a number 10. Let's get one thing straight. It's like turning around and telling me they play with wingers. We do not play with wingers. Get it out of your head. Cal, if we wanted to play with wingers, right? Kyle, Ollie, Alex, Jack Harewood, for instance, are all that kind of player, and you could play wingers with them in a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Right? But equally, those players could still play as inside forwards.
Yeah.
Not wingers. There's different roles. And people have got to have the mentality to understand that, right? The different roles. So we don't play with wingers. Let's get one thing straight. We play with inside forwards. In theory, we play with 3 strikers.
Yeah.
In theory. Right? That's it. Your number 10 is not a striker. Your number 10 in our team, this team, is a midfield player.
Yeah, more of an attacking midfielder.
He's an attacking midfield player. So he's not a number 10 as a number 10. And he has a role, so he's got to support the front lads, and he's got to unlock doors. But equally, as he unlocks doors, he's got a responsibility if we lose possession, because the chances are he'll have a player to pick up.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Right? So when it came to making the substitution, and you look at your bench, there's a decision got to be made. Now, the decision could be made that I go with Connor. But this is the manager's decision. In my opinion, the best one for the job on the day, in the circumstances we're in, we're always going to be Joel.
Yeah.
For the reasons why I've just said. Joel comes down to work rate. Comes down to work rate. He's proved it. If we lose possession, he'll get back in. He'll defend against his man. When we win possession, he's got no fear. He will be expansive. He'll stretch teams with his pace. He'll get in. He'll try and get in behind.
And let them backtrack.
Exactly. So that was the decision. Now, sadly, obviously, what happens with players, and unfortunately, I can't control this. What happens with players? The Red plays mind games. So the Red tells them something, what they want to think's happening, which is really not happening. So the Red will probably start telling them, oh, he's dismissed me, he doesn't like me, it's just the biggest load of absolute shite I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. I'd like to think I'm professional, and I think things out methodically, and I think things out for the team, and what I feel is best for the team, right? Let's take away from this situation. Let's take the Ben Thompson situation. Here we've got a lad that has come to us with an absolute fantastic pedigree. He was probably listening to his agent, and his agent is a person that I respect highly in the game, right? And he knows what he's talking about, and he's not one of these scruple agents like what most of them are. He's a proper.
He's not chasing the money.
No, he's got the player. He's got players at heart.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what he's got. This player was on the verge. He only threw injury at the wrong time, and it's usually the case. They get injured at the wrong time, and they lose where they were going and where they're at. So he was on the peripheral. He played for the first team a few times. Apparently, the tale comes that he played against Preston North End in the first team, and he absolutely ran the show against Preston North End. But then he got injured, and he had a setback in his injury. And when he had a setback in his injury, obviously, football's so brutal, it can be. People can overtake you while you're recovering from injury. And when people overtake you, mindsets change. And when it comes to making decisions about are you going to get a pro contract or are you not getting a pro contract, because of circumstances which has sadly happened, he didn't get a pro contract. So then it's so disappointing. So then at this point, players have got to kind of, my job, and I always say this, and this is even going down the years, my job is not just picking the team and thinking, oh, I've got a Rolls Royce player here and I want him, and it's great to have him here. No, my job on all fronts, this is mental and physical, right? My job is to try and get that lad, because don't forget where my upbringing comes from as a youth team coach, right? My job is to develop that player, to get him, not to develop him because he's already had his development at Fleetwood, to get his mindset back on it to get his mindset in a right frame of mind, to make sure that he's not sitting in his comfort zone, picking his money up every week and just being happy as Larry and being in a nice comfort zone. My job is to drive him, oin him, get in his head to make him go back to where he were, and hopefully clubs, not your blinking sideways moves like your Rams bottoms or Avros or people like that. No. I'm talking where he's come from. Yeah, or then we'll take him back. Right now, it's easy for players that's been where Ben's been. Right, it's easy for them to stay in their comfort zone and think, well, my days have gone now playing up there. But no, they haven't gone. He's 21-year-old. Yeah. This can just start him. Now, my job, and I'm not going to put a player in my team just because he comes to me with a great pedigree. That ain't happening. You know, you've seen it down at Old Trafford at minute. Marcus Rshford's got a great pedigree. Yeah. But there's obviously flaws somewhere, right? So he's not just going to come in my team and walk in my team because he's got a great pedigree, right? Now, when I watch Ben play in a game, Ben doesn't do anything wrong. You know, in most teams, if you go through his stats of his ball retention, right, they'll be as good as anybody. Yeah. He very rare he will waste a ball. He always gets it to its destination. Yeah. Right. He never fails on that. Right. Now, we're not talking about aggression here because he's a player that will put a foot in, but he's not aggressive. But we don't want him to be aggressive, really. That's not his part of his game. No. He's technically very, very good. Now then, what he's got in his locker, or what he should have in his locker, is when he's got the ball, he's got vision that when it's on, to freaking drive and take the baton and freaking force a run, right, which will force the team back and create something from his penetration, right? Absolutely. That is what he is about, but he doesn't do it, and he doesn't do it enough. Now, and because
that's where the frustration comes in sometimes, doesn't it? Because he's got that in his locker.
Correct. So what happens is, me as a manager, I'm thinking, we need that. We haven't got it. He's got it in abundance, but we need that to get your Carl Siddalls in, to get your Alex Mellors in, to get your Toby Wrights in. You've got to have that. We've got to have it. And we in the times when I've played him, we haven't had it. And Michael Gervin hasn't been around or hasn't been in. We haven't had that. Now, the nearest we came to having it, when we went to Uxton in the FA, this trophy what we were playing Paddyman in the semi-final, in the first half, I'd spoke to him. Well, we went out in the first half. We played a different shape, right? And we went out, and he was playing well, but he was only playing well. He wasn't playing exceptional. Now, if I was a scout coming to watch that game, I look at it this way as well, and this is where I come from as a manager. If I was a scout on the sideline, would he be standing out for me? Would he be standing out for me to go back to an Accrington Stanley? Or go back to a blinking Wrexham or wherever? I'd think no, because all he was doing, he was just giving goals. There's another
20% in there that needs to come out.
Exactly. So I said to him at halftime, "You're doing all right, Tomo. You're doing well, but I need more from you." There's times you're just sat in that pocket and you're just giving it go. There's times when you've got to get it and drive and force the game. You know, you go back to midfield players that, you know, what we were blessed with and watching. I said this even to Callum Hewitt the other day when I watched a video of Brian Robson. I mean, I've watched Brian Robson, obviously, live. But when he got the ball, he'd drive. He'd plough through and then he'd make things happen and he'd slip a pass in. But that pass he slipped in might be blinking edge of the box.
Yeah.
Instead of deeper.
It'd go from autopilot into manual.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter, so I'm saying to Ben, you've got to put that back in your game. You've got it in abundance. Put it back in your game. Now, he did do in the second half at Uxton, and that's probably one of the reasons why we kicked on in the second half as well. Yeah, you can turn around and say, you know, like, a couple of players came off the bench and changed the course of the game. I kind of think they contributed, but I think because Ben were coming out of his comfort zone and doing what he was doing, changed the dynamics of the game.
He did exactly the same at Garstang as well.
Yeah. So anyway, so now we're in this situation. So when it comes to the Radcliffe game, and I come to have to select my teams, right? As much as I love Ben to bits, and as much as I love his commitment, and he always wants to be, he travels from where he travels from, and he'll throw his hat in the ring always to play for the under-23s because he feels like he wants to play games and, keep his cell ticking over. His attitude is impeccable. But he's kind of staying in his comfort zone. And when it comes to picking the team against Radcliffe, when it's a decision to make, obviously I wanted the physicality of Malachi and Callum. But he could have got in that team. He could have still played that creative role where I've put Michael Gove in. He could play that role because he's got that creativity in him and he could drive in that situation and everything else. He's still physical behind him. But I didn't, because I opted to go from a captain because look, Michael Gervin's played here for a number of years. And when that Michael Gervin came into this club at first, he will be the first to tell you, until he got used to me, he was on the peripheral, he was on the borderline, and he left. He left to come, but then eventually he knew the grass weren't greener on the other side, and then eventually he came back. But I was still the same Brent Peters. I weren't going to change. Michael Gervin had to change. If he wanted to come back to me, he had to change. And if he changed, happy days, because I knew what he wanted, and he has changed, and he's done change, and he's been brilliant, and he's been a brilliant captain. Right? Now, I could have easily left Michael, because Michael's there with a cheekbone linking fracture, left him out. That could have been my excuse to leave him out. Well, you look at your face. You know what I mean? You have to wear a mask and all that. You're not right. And I could have played Ben there, no problem. But I didn't, because I felt to myself, Michael, as it stands at the minute, is whether players agree or they don't agree, whether supporters agree or don't agree, for me, he's the most creative player for us going forward. Yeah. He creates more. He opens doors more. Now, when it comes to that situation, I've got 3 midfield players to pick. 3, right? If I've got 2, like I've got in Callum and Malachi, and why they complement each other there, I'm not saying Callum isn't good in the air, because he is, but Malachi's better. Do you know what I mean? Because he's got more inches.
Yeah.
So he's more effective in the air, right? Both effective on the ground. So physically and protecting wise, you've got the balance. Brilliant. So there's only one space at this point, and the one space you've got at this point is who's going to go in on that one that's been the creative midfield player, because they're breaking things up, right? We want the creative one to get on the ball and create. So what you do then, and this is my mindset. So where I need that creative midfield player. So if I put Tomo in, all we've got there at the minute in Tomo's situation is give and go. He's creating frigging nothing. He's not wasting a ball.
We're not going forward.
We're not going forward. It's Ray Wilkins, God rest his soul. It's a crab. We're going sideways. There's not anything penetrating.
No.
Right? So I think to myself, well, it has to be Michael, because I know Michael will do it. So Michael's got the nod at the minute, right? So Michael's in. Now then, the situation is, Ben, obviously, deep down, I mean, I spoke to him yesterday and pulled him to one side and just had a brief chat with him. And my words were, I love him to bits. He's like Alex Mellor. They've got the same attitude and everything. He's brilliant. Attitude. He's brilliant to have around. His attitudes, and I love people with them attitudes. I love them. And he's got a brilliant attitude. And I've had to pull him, because I know he's like, what do I have to do? So I pulled him. But the thing is, when you talk to him, because he's intelligent, like Connor's intelligent, when you talk to him, he agrees with you because he knows you're right. And he goes, yeah, I get it. I said to him, Ben, when you get your opportunity, when you go on that pitch, I need to see you driving. I need to see you coming out your comfort zone. You've got to do it regularly, because listen, as much as I want you at Bay Cut forever and a day, right, because you're an excellent player, I don't want you to take up forever and ever a day because you're 21-year-old. You've come from Fleetwood Town, right? You need to be back up there. You've got it in your locker, but you haven't got it in your locker if you're just going to sit in here and stay in your comfort zone. It ain't happening. You're not going to go back there. You might as well go.
We want to come on this show, Brent, and talk about maybe in 12 months' time about Ben Thompson being back in professional football. That's what we want to be talking about.
Exactly. So, but I know he won't get in professional football unless he listens to what I'm telling him, because I know obviously what it takes, and he's been there and he's got it, but he's got to believe in it and do it. And when you're asking me about my substitutions and why I'm not starting with people, these are some of the reasons and the differences. Because my job is not just to get 3 points. Yeah, of course it is. But it's also to really develop that player and get him back to where he should be. It's a bit different when I signed Ben Thornley, because Ben Thornley is coming down.
Yeah.
And he were never going to go back because his age told him he were never going to go back. But these are lads that have been there on the peripheral, had one foot in the door.
Yeah. But we spoke about it. You've changed your model. The model's changed at Bay Cup. Before you used to bring the players from the pro game to play for you. Now we're nurturing players.
Yeah, it's different. Totally different. And you know, again, if we have conversations away from this show, and where I've got frustrated a little bit, and even this season I've got frustrated. Well, in fact, I've got frustrated a lot this season.
Yeah.
The group, I know and I believe in this group massively, massively. The frustration is they've proved that they can live with the best when they turn up and they're on it as a collective, right? But they've got to be on it every game. Now, I said you weren't privy to my talk before the game yesterday, but my talk were yesterday, this is a massive test for you, because the last time we were on the foul course, right, a couple of weeks back, 10 days ago, on the foul course, what a mixed week that were. We got a freaking stuffing at Blackpool, but I also thought we played well, and I thought they were fortunate on the day in certain instances of how the goals went in. You know, they hit everything and it went in, but they fully deserved the win. I'm not going to take that away from them at all, right? But a couple of days later, I've picked a team that's gone toe-to-toe with Radcliffe, and I said to him, forget what you listen to blinking Jordan Hume on this podcast that's going to be coming up in a bit. And he turns around and said, oh yeah, we had a few kids playing and all that. Hang on, if you look at their team sheet that played the following game, they had six of them that was on that team sheet that won on the Saturday after they played us. Right, 6 of that on that team sheet played in that game, and the players that came in,
they were first teamers.
There were lads coming down that were on trial from like Wolverhampton Wanderers and Hull City. You know, they're not blinking people that's been picked up at blinking Whitworth Valley.
Very bus station.
Yeah, you get me. You know, they were a bit of something about them. Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, so then I said to the players, I said, listen, this is your bleeding tech, because there's people out there, there's cynics out there telling me, and I'm even listening to this, that we're a good cup, but we can't do it in the league. Now, I want you to prove it. It hurts me when I'm hearing that, because I know you can do it in the league. But the proof of the pudding is you haven't done it in the league consistently. That's why you were sliding down the table. Now you've got to blinking, we've got the players back that we want, right? We've got to go and prove it. If you fail here today, this is what I said. If you fail here today, then the cynics are right.
Yeah. Yeah.
100% right. You can't fail here today. You've got to go and prove the blinking point here, because you need to kick on. And to be fair, that's what they did. And to be fair, after that first 10 minutes, and it worked then, we had to guide them into game, right? Once we did that, we picked the baton up and ran with it. And we were more than, even though the scoreline suggests it was a close game, I honestly think if we'd have took our, like I put there, FFS chances with a big circle round, because we missed so many chances. And I mean, it were bordering on, I mean, this is how thin dividing line it were. They got a free kick in the second half with the score at Lincoln 2-1 to us, right? and it was a great free kick, and he's rattled the bar.
Yeah, it was.
It was a great free kick, and he's rattled the bar. That was how close it was because we didn't take our chances. Now, when their manager's talking about chances, I think I've got a right to talk about chances because I do think our chances were missed because they were. I'm not being funny. We stood right in front of goal, and goal gaping at us, and we didn't even execute it.
Yeah, on
several occasions. So my point being, going back to the subs yesterday, you know, I'd already made that decision that Joe were going to go on, and in terms of, I mean, what happened next? I mean, I'm not being funny, and I'm not on here to call. It's always why do we get near a referee? But I'm not being funny. That referee, and this is the way that it's going at the minute, it's ridiculous. I think the referee, when he were brought up in football, must have been a member of the St. Winifred's girls' school. I'm sure he must have been from thinking St. Winifred's girls' school. You know, where you can't go to me like that. What the blinking setting yellow card, aggression, over aggressive. Where he's freaking gone in on the defender, right? There was no aggression at all. It was blinking heck. It was just nothing. It was pussy. And the referee gives him a second yellow. I just think look, the lad were distraught in the changing room, apparently. You know, Brian White, bless him, has gone in the changing room. Malachi were off at that point, and they both gone in the changing room, consoling him. You know, he's a young kid at the end of the day. Yeah, you've got to learn. But at the end of the day, he's only just got on the pitch, and what a blinking baptism of blinking fire that is. He's got on the pitch, he's got 2 yellow cards in space of I don't know how long, right? He's got us our winning goal, and he gets sent off. But I've got to question the bleeding referee. You know, but now we're without him in our next game. You know, the poor lad, and then he's got to probably try to find, if the lads kick on, he's got to try and fight his way back in the squad. You know, so it has a knock-on effect. And that's poor refereeing in my eyes. And when you look at the number of players that were actually booked and what they were booked, you know what? Up to probably the last 20 minutes of that game, 25 minutes, I actually thought the referee weren't doing too bad, considering the state of referees in this day and age, right? He wasn't doing too bad, but something went to his head, and you know, he was ridiculous, and I just don't get it. You know,
well, I thought their fullback could have easily been sent off. There were at least 2 or 3 reckless tackles on Kyle Siddle in that first half.
100%. They absolutely blinking nearly raped him. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Joey Fallon, I could see it from the opposite side for me, right? Joey Fallon, the bloke has absolutely physically thrown a punch at Joey Fallon. Now, what's the blinking beanpot linesman doing? I could see it from freaking where I were, and I wear glasses. Blinking heck, and my players were slaughtering me before the game, not these, because these are broke, right? I put the other ones on because these are broke.
Ones.
Well, I put them other ones on, and blinking, they were dogging me when I walked in because they had blinking them light things that blinking change lights. So I walked in thinking, oh, Roy Orbison. It's like Roy Orbison who walked in bloody room. You know what I mean? But I wear glasses, and I could see the blinking fist come back and smack him, and he's got 2 yellow cards. What sort of a decision's that? You know, come on. Then we talk about, he shouldn't be having a go at referees. Listen, why throw a protective ring around him? You've got a referee at the top level, right? At the top level, that's blinking had to tell his story, come out to the press and admit that he's queer. So what? It's not a problem. No. It's a life. It's not a problem. Not a problem. Right? It happens these day and age.
You don't even have to come out and say it.
It's no, exactly. But what's happened is they've recorded him, obviously, behind when he's blinking had a few sherbets too many, right? And that's water, by the way, not gin and tonic, right? And they've recorded him, and he's coming out in the confines of 4 walls, and somebody's recorded him, and he's talking about Jurgen Klopp. I wish I had about £50 for every time the referee will be talking about me behind my back. I'd be a very, very rich man.
We'd have had that roof on that clubhouse within 2 weeks.
Exactly. Get me. But listen, Grow up here. I keep saying it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, Stephen. It winds me up because football. What's made football so great? Football is so great when you look back at the videos and you see people like David Batty going in and full blown frigging physical, frigging solid challengers, commitment, Nobby Styles, Brian Robson, Remy Moses, people like Roy Keane, now you're blinking going in. Poor lad Joe Booth has gone in on a blinking goal on a defender, right? And there's a coming together, which were like something and nothing. Seriously, there would have probably been more power, as much power in my blinking 4-year-old grandson going and making a connection, and he's got a second yellow. I think where does these people come from? He's probably never played the game. Right, never played the game. Like I said, he's probably been brought up at St. Winifred's blinking girls' school.
We just seem to be in an era now where we're very keen at watering the game down. And how far are you going to water it down until it's till we have no game left?
Well, it's madness. It's madness.
Anyway, quickly get on to a couple of topics. First of all, this man, J. Rod, what a servant for Burnley Football Club. Not once, but twice. One of our own. Moving on to Wrexham. Signed for Wrexham. Great move for Parkinson. And something that you were talking about, Brent, last week. Or you've spoke about it for the last probably 2 years, or maybe 3, in regards to making sure if you want promotion, going for players from above that will take you there. You said, Tommy Doherty said that many, many years ago. If you want to go to an higher league, make sure you're buying or bringing from the league above. And that's what Phil Parkinson's done.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'm going to say is on Jay Rodriguez. I've always liked Jay Rodriguez because, again, he epitomises his attitude is unbolievable.
He's a role model, isn't he? Role model.
Yeah, exactly. And his work rate is different class. So I've always liked Jay Rodriguez. Fantastic. And then when I saw the signing that he's gone to Wrexham, I just thought
it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, and I just thought about Phil Parkinson. When you look at it and look at his team at the minute and his squad at the minute, he's epitomising exactly what Tommy Doherty told me many years ago. If you want promotion out of the league, so if you're in the 3rd division and you're managing in the 3rd division and you want to get out that 3rd division, right, you've got wherever possible to try and bring experienced 2nd division or even 1st division players down that's probably going the other way, going away from, the career's probably coming to an end at that level, and get them in where you are, because they'll more than be comfortable at the level you're managing at, and their experience and expertise will give you that lift up. And I've tried to, apart from going with this group that we've got now, that's, if you look at all the clubs where I've managed and you look at, the players that I've had, the Rosendale United days in 1993 epitomises what I'm saying is when I'm bringing players in like Colin Methan, Barry Siddall, former Football League players, and I mean professionals with 600 and 700 Football League games under the belts.
Crazy.
And I'm bringing in like the likes of Phil Malley and Steve Gardner and people like that into the club. I use the same ethos, and then when you look what Phil Parkinson's now doing at Wrexham, he's doing exactly the same. He signed Matty James. He's took Matty James, who's obviously close to me. He signed Matty James, and which he scored after 2 minutes yesterday with Matty. He's now got Jay Rodriguez,
Stephen Fletcher,
and then he's got Stephen Fletcher in there, and he's got Paul. Is it Paul Mullen? I think he's got Mullen
McLean as well.
Yeah, so he's taking that same exactly what we've talked about on the show, and exactly what I've tried to implement previously. He's actually implementing it now, and obviously we only time will tell where it takes them. But they've got off to a good start because they had a good win yesterday away from home at Crawley. Yeah. So it's all good. And
in regards to Jay, great servant for Burnley. I suppose legends thrown around quite a lot, but his attitude and the way that he's been a role model in the town, I suppose he will go down in Burnley folklore, won't he, over the years?
Yeah, of course he will. Yeah, of course he will. I mean, and he deserves to do. I mean, even when he were at West Brom, I used to love watching him. I just love him because again, I just love players without
and then
attitude.
Southampton, getting an international cap, becoming an England player.
Yeah. It's good, and it's a great move. And I hope Wrexham, I really do. I really hope Wrexham can do it for several reasons. But I just think that the template that they're using is very similar to what I were advised many years ago.
Yeah. Very quickly as well, spoke about him quite a bit. Marcus Rshford, the latest coming out from Ruben, the manager, saying he'd rather play his goalkeeping coach, who I believe is about 61, 62, than Marcus. There's a lot going on behind the scenes at Old Trafford, and I don't think we've probably got the full picture there, Brent.
I just think the press are a disgrace, and I've always said that they're a disgrace. I listened to that interview, and they've picked words out of it and
taken it out of context,
taking it totally out of context. And I listened to the full interview, and the manager said nothing wrong. In fact, he wasn't even talking about Marcus Rshford in his interview. They brought Marcus Rshford in it, and it went something like this. They said something and said, you're struggling scoring goals, right? But you've got a player and the quality of Marcus Rshford. Why are you so adamant that you're not bringing him in? And he basically replied to that and said, it's all about attitudes, and it's the same with every player. They've got to put it in training, and work hard in training. If they're working hard in training, then obviously I'm here to help them, and I will be selecting them. When they're not, then I'm not, And then he said, and he weren't really specifically saying about Marcus Rshford. He said about anybody in general. He said, my 61-year-old goalkeeping coach has got a better attitude than some of the players here, and I'd prefer to put somebody like him on the bench, who's going to give me. And basically, what he was meaning,
based on attitude.
Yeah, based on attitude. He said it's not personal. Now, where I get a good guideline on anything, I'll say to Brian, because I know he buys and he likes his papers, and I'll say to Brian White, stop reading The Sun for goodness sake. Or even stop reading any of them, because they just twist things. The best paper to read is the paper that's
the Rosy Free Press on a Friday morning with Steve Brown.
Well, that's probably right, but it's the paper that's close to the club. The people. Now, if you think, and if you know anything about Manchester United and everything that goes on, when one of the people that is kind of very, very close and has been for a long number of years at Manchester United is Andy Mitten. Now, Andy Mitten has got nothing to do with Manchester United as such. He's kind of an outsider, but his uncle or his granddad or Charlie Mitten was a big cult figure at Man United, probably one of the Busby Babes. You go back, Charlie Mitten. So obviously, Andy is very close and extremely close to players, right? And he's wrote many books, and as Roger Indall, our historian, does here, he knows everything about Manchester United. And when he's come out,
but he's not financially obligated, is he, to write nice stories about Man United? It's always going to be the truth because he's not making any money from it.
No, and he travels the world with Man United, and not just Man United, about, in football in general. Even to the point when I signed David May here, right, and Sky covered it, he got in touch with me and he come and interviewed me here at Bacup Borough as well, because obviously it was linked to Manchester United. Yes, so the same, so it just carried on. But now he's come out just recently and he's actually said the same thing. He said it's been going on with Marcus. Previous managers and senior players know what's going on and what's gone on with Marcus. It's been going on for years, and they've all had problems with him.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know. We're not privy because we're not on the inside, but people like who are on the inside and who are close to Man United will know what's going on. Now, I can imagine what's going on, and I can imagine that because he's got this circus round him, right? And a lot of people won't really, but even to the point that, you know, I had Fabio Abreu here from a young age. We're giving him his debut. You look on Fabio Abreu, and our listeners can go and Google him now.
Yeah.
Just go and Google Fabio Abreu, right? And you'll see that his last club, not his last club because he's had two since then, professional clubs, but his last non-league, his last club in this country was Bacup Borough. Still there on his profile is Bacup Borough, right? I gave this kid his debut at 17-year-old, and I knew he was going to be. And I'd signed him on a contract at training on a Thursday night here. And on Friday morning, after he'd signed the contract, his entourage. No Heavy's turned up here, but his entourage is obviously advised because they knew that there was a move in the offering. Get that, don't put that contract in. Don't put it in, right? Now, his brothers were kind of part of him, if you will. And this is a kid that went back to Portugal, played in the 3rd division of the Portuguese league, professional league, scoring goals for fun. He was a terrific player, right? Strong as an ox, scoring goals for fun. He then got a move to Mortimia, I think they were called. He got a move there, which was a big, and then he got a massive money move to Saudi.
That was a big one. I did an article on it. I think it was in the Manchester Evening News. Yeah, 2.2 million euros.
Yeah,
and I know that you were looking at the possibilities, Brent, weren't you, of maybe tapping into some funds which were available through UEFA or FIFA.
Yeah, we could have. The thing is, I mean, nobody now the Northwest Counties League, which is very, very good. They keep archives and they keep records. But back then, they didn't keep records and they didn't have the archives like they've got now.
You were searching for that piece of paper.
But I was searching for the paper because if we could have, and the FA got involved as well, and they were trying to help us, all we needed was his registration form, an old registration form from here to prove that he played for us. And we were into quite a lump sum of money because they call it training fees and it's through FIFA because he'd been here.
Development fees as well, I think, something like that.
Yeah. But we couldn't get our hands on that, you know, that registration. And I don't usually keep copies, if you follow me. So we lost out on that. But the point what I'm kind of trying to make is this kid now, obviously, if you Google him, he's still there. You know, I was talking about him the other day. So the fact of the matter is, you know, you've got players like this that want to do it, but you see, they've got a circus. What I'm trying to say is they've got a circus round them, right? Now, in terms of even Danny Welbeck, would you believe he might not be now, but he were back in the day when he was at Manchester United. He was represented by his brothers.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we're at. And so it's all wheels within wheels. Now, if you probably look into Marcus Rshford, his brothers somewhere along the line will be tied in, and so he's got this circus round him. Now, in any walk of life, so obviously as he's done great things when you think about it, because he's done great things for the community, and you know, and what led him to get, you know, honoured by the Queen and everything else. That'll take its toll at some point because he'll be having to represent at certain points and at nights and when he should be coming in to train, and he'll be missing training. You can imagine what's happening.
Yeah.
He's coming in later. There's matchsticks under his eyes and he's not training properly, and managers are having a run-in with him. I can imagine what these things are happening. Yeah. And you know, and it's affected his form.
Yeah, the charity work and the good work he does in the community has kind of overtaken his football, which the football should have always been the primary.
Yeah, that's what I think. And I think what's happened now is this is another thing where all the cynics are coming in. And I had this even on Wednesday night with Ryan Russell, our fitness coach, because again, he's probably another one that Duncan picks up the newspaper and reads a load of crap what's in it. And he's gone, oh no, it's all to get him off the wage bill. He's the highest paid player. It's a load of absolute nonsense. I'm not having that. You know, it's only last year they gave him this blinking contract and he's the highest player. It's not like you're talking about blinking non-league football here. You're talking about one of the biggest clubs in world football, right? It's got absolutely nothing to do with that. We need him off the wage bill and all that. It's got nothing to do.
If he's banging goals in, that £300,000 is nothing.
It's all to do, and it comes down to attitudes. And if the people, and this is why, you know, probably the previous managers, by hook or by crook, you know, like your Jose Mourinho's, they've probably reluctantly stood by him, and they've ended up throwing Jose Mourinho and the likes under a bus.
But all their managers have highlighted the same problem.
They've all highlighted, and this is my point. Now, you're not telling me, if it all comes down and you peel things back, Jose Mourinho, I know, has been close at some point with Rubin.
Yeah.
So before Rubin's taken this job, you're not telling me that Rubin's not taking advice and had conversations exactly with Jose Mourinho. Yeah. And probably Jose Mourinho straight away has said,
wet dry rot is.
You're freaking telling you need to sort that because you'll be under a bus.
Yeah.
You'll be out. This is what happens. They talk.
That needs to be the first thing you get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. So he's gone in there with that mindset straight away, and probably, but not fully with that mindset. He's probably gone in with an open mind. But then when it started to fester and come out, he's jumping on it hard. Yeah. Now we're sat here, and me as a manager, I think I've got to warm with him because I think it's brilliant what he's doing. Right?
You've had the same problems. Even when I've been in the club in the last 5 years, you've had problem players, and they've seen Caltoot Lane pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. You know, these things you have to deal with them, and you just move on, and you've got to deal with them. I think personally, this is me deep down. I don't know. I mean, there's all this talk now at the minute that Aston Villa that they've put in, and they're negotiating, and they'll pay half of his wages and take him on loan. And then I'm hearing a little bit that Rashford's reluctant to go. Now, again, I'm going to be cynical, and I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I'm going to be cynical. I honestly I don't think he'll go, mate. I think this transfer window will come and go, and I think that'll be the time where Rubin and Rashford kiss and make up.
Well, the only way that's going to happen is if he can put his boots on, get on the pitch, and start doing what he's paid to do.
And I think that's because if again, I'm a person that plays on words, and I'm a person that listens to, and I hang on to words when people do interviews. And I listened to that Rubin's interview. He's one of his last ones he did. And he said, we'll see what happens when the transfer window closes. Now
so the door's not really closed then, is it?
Said it all to me. Because at the minute, what I see happening off that comment, I see his entourage trying to get him away.
Yeah, they're touting him out.
And they're touting him out. And his head's all over the place, right? Deep down, he doesn't want to go because he's Man United, because he's a big fan. He doesn't want to go. I mean, let's be honest. Come on. Think about it logically. If you're getting that sort of money, right, why would you want to travel down the N6 in the morning, right, to get to Aston Villa's training ground in Birmingham when you can jump out of bed and 10 minutes up the road, you're in Carrington?
Well, Paul Scholes used to say that all the time. He said, Real Madrid, Barcelona coming. He said, I'll jump out of my bed in Middleton or whatever it were. I'm at training ground in 20 minutes from training ground, 20 minutes from Old Trafford. I'm at best club in the world. Where do I want to go somewhere?
Correct, 100%. So what is it? Let's get this straight here. You know, me and you now. What's he going to gain as we speak today? Theologically, what is he going to gain going to Villa? It doesn't alter his wages. His wages are still there. The only thing he will pick up is because he'll have appearances going in, because he'll be probably starting at Villa. So
fresh energy at Villa, but it's, you know, okay, the form guy, but it's a sideways move.
He's not gaining anything, and in fact, it's going to put him under more pressure, because he's going to have to travel down to training ground in Birmingham, right? When he can just sort his head out and sort his sell out at Man United. If he sorts his head out at Man United, he's going to be in that team all day long.
Yeah, because Ruben, like you said, Ruben's conversations, interviews, he's not closed the door on him.
No, as yet. That's all he said. He said, but this isn't personal. It's same with everybody. And we have levels.
Yeah. And
they can't drop before then. And I can't let one thing happen to one player and then I'm being strict with another player. It can't happen, and it can't happen. If I'm not at that level, but it's the same. It doesn't matter whether you're a manager, whatever level you're at, it's the same principle. You know, it's like this. It's like I hear comments. I mean, I heard it yesterday. You know, I mean, we're digressing a little bit here. When I hear a comment of somebody that turns around and says, "I've got a young family," right? And I'm having to travel, blinking, I don't know how many miles to come to a game. Then I've got to sit on a blinking freezing cold bench, and then I don't get on, or I get 10 minutes. You know, I might as well stay at home with my family. Well, where does that work? Where does that work? If you want to play semi-pro football, or you want to play professional football, that doesn't give anybody a divine right when they sign a contract. And it doesn't give anybody a divine right when they sign a non-contract that to start in a team, you're part of a squad. It's not an old boys. It's not an old boys club. You start in the squad,
aren't they?
Exactly. So players have got to understand that if the manager goes out signing players that are every bit as good as the player in question, or in some instances better, in his opinion,
you better roll your sleeves up.
Then he's going to pick those players, what he feels. Now, a player can't turn around and say, well, you know, like it took me all this time to get here and I haven't got on the pitch. Well, that's the chance you take, because, again, I'm not a kind of manager, and I can't speak from if I've got to be honest now here, right, and this is where I've got to educate my coach, right, who's never managed at first-team level, right, but if he did manage at first-team level, he should have a mindset like me. But if you've come with a mindset like when you've managed at under 23 level or reserve team football, I get it that you'd think, well, we'll give him a run now, and we'll give him a run now, and we'll give him. It's different. This is football. You don't make substitutions just to give somebody a game and appease them and think, well, they can have 10 minutes. It keeps him quiet. No, because making a substitution can alter the dynamics of your game and how the game's going.
It's not that. You've got a job to do for yourself and for the club, but also the supporters who have travelled in numbers want to see the best team on the pitch.
Well, yeah, but a player can't turn round and say, I mean, I had another one at Christmas, and listen, I'm not knocking this, and I get it, right? Another player ran Christmas. I mean, he's been lucky he's got back into the squad as quick as he's got back into the squad. But another player at Christmas, he contacted me and he went, listen, this is the first year at Christmas that, and I'm not going to nearly mention the child's name, and I'm not going to do because that'll give it away anyway, right? He said, this is the first year at Christmas, my lad is taking note. And I really, you know, I need to spend a bit of time with him, right? Now, that's fine. Not a problem. I get that, because let's be honest, it's non-league football. So my reply to that were, I get what you're saying, and I understand it, but you know, from my point of view, where that's going to go. You're giving that shirt back now, and your chances are you can't come knocking on my door when Christmas has come and gone and New Year's come and gone, and you're not getting back in the team. You can't come back to my door and say, and I understand that. And he did understand it, and he said that. He said, I get that, but this is, I've just got to be, and I get it, because obviously they soon grow up. So you've got to have that time. But you can't expect, if you make that decision, that's your decision. But you can't expect the manager to go the other way just because circumstances have changed with you, right? You've got to understand that if you want to take that, I'll give you that time off, but you've got to understand when you come back, you've got to wait, and you might have to wait a bit to get back in. Now, fortunately, because of situations we found ourselves in and that, he's got in probably quicker than he would normally happen. But that's what the point I'm trying to make is, when you play non-league football, if your circumstances don't dictate that you can be committed, and committed means that you've got to be committed for training, you've got to be committed for games. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be 100% freaking guaranteed to play. It's like the start of the season. I'll give you an instance. I'd set my stall out that I wanted 2 top quality goalkeepers, right? If we were challenging for the league, I wanted 2 top quality keepers to challenge each other. I was speaking to a keeper, and my conversation with these keepers never changed, never wandered, never changed. I said, if you come to me and you're signing a contract, let me tell you, that contract is not guarantee you in this team. I'm telling you, I will only pick, doesn't matter that you signed a contract, doesn't guarantee you in. If you're on the top and I feel that you're the keeper to take the mantle at that particular time, you will take the mantle. The other keeper will be on contract, but he will have to just wait for his chance to come in. And if he has to come in, his chance comes and he comes in, right, and he does really, really well, then the other keeper has to wait for his chance again to come in. That's what happens, right? It's simple. That is continuity, and that's simple. So it doesn't guarantee that you sign that contract, you're going to be the number 1 goalkeeper. I had that conversation, right? One goalkeeper in question said to me, both of them were happy, right, with what I'd said. One of them turned round and said, yeah, I love competition. I believe in my own ability, and I believe I'll be the number 1. Fine, I ain't got a problem with that. But talk's cheap, but I haven't got a problem, right? So the next thing that happened, one of the keepers I was speaking to, right, I didn't pursue that one. He moved more south, right? I decided not to, but I pursued the other one, right? So when I pursued the other one, that was the conversation, right? You know as well as I know, you've been in the game long enough to know that a week is a long time in football, and circumstances can dictate situations. And in this instance, a circumstance dictated a situation. From a situation where he was carrying an injury, and I identified it and felt that he's not doing himself any justice because he's playing with an injury, and decided to take him out, and another goalkeeper comes in who does well. Then in the meantime, the goalkeeper who were carrying the injury had an unfortunate accident at work, which prolonged the situation even longer. So it prolonged the situation even longer. But the lad's who's come in and taken the mantle, and he's playing in goal, to the fact that he's not doing a lot wrong and he's keeping his place, to a situation then, because circumstances have changed, you get the goalkeeper then coming wanting to be released of his contract, which is never going to happen, right? Now, my point being, and this is my point, it's not like they haven't been told all the fors and against doing it before they sign it, because I tell them everything. But because it's not working for them, some of them, they just think, well, I need to add some games, but they can get games with us because they can play. The keeper who's not in at the time can play in the under-23s, and the way that we run our under-23s is not with players that's away from the first team squad. The under-23s, we utilise a lot of our first team squad players in the under-23s. So this is my point. When you know, they're all for it at the beginning, but then when circumstances change for whatever reason, and these circumstances what I'm talking about here with the contracts and the goalkeepers, right? It's just unfortunate because you can't look through a crystal ball if somebody picks an injury up and somebody goes in. If that person goes in, I mean, it's like we just said about Joel. Joel, unfortunately, now has got a 1-match ban. Now, the squad that I pick next week, I'm forced not to pick Joel because he's got a 1-match ban. Now, the week after, where can I justify? I can't look through a crystal ball, but where can I justify when I turn round and say to somebody, well, I'm leaving you out the squad today because Joel's available now. He served his suspension. That ain't right in my eyes because you know, it's just unfortunate. Joel's got to wait now, but it might be a very quick one because he might not have to wait too long because somebody might throw in and say I'm not available, or somebody might throw in I've been feeling ill all week, so I'm a bit under the weather. Different things happen, but I'm saying on an equal playing field, right? Had Joel not got sent off, would he have been next week's squad? 100% he would. 100%. Yep. But because he's got sent off, I can't pick him. That's out my hands. No. So I've got to pick somebody else.
There's an opportunity for someone else.
Correct. So the week after, unless they blow all the gaff next week, the week after, I'm in a situation where Joel will be available. But then I've got to think, well, I can't just turn around to a player and say, well, I'm not, you've got to sit it out now because Joel's available. It doesn't work like that. This is football. That's why I say a week's a long time in football. You know, let's take Jack Hayward, for instance. Jack Hayward last week, poor lad, you know, hasn't seen an opportunity to get back into the squad. Now then, because Joel's got sent off, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying, you know, because I've got to think, because certain different circumstances can happen.
But at least there's a chance there now.
But there's a chance that he could come in. So am I going to say week after when Joel's available, oh, Jack, you have to go back to 23s now. You're not real.
Cheers, Jack. But thanks. But no thanks.
It can't be like that. And that's not the way I work.
No. Right, Brent, we're going to call it. We're going to wrap it up. Another entertaining show. We only thought we were going to chat for an hour, but it's been almost 1 hour and...
Blinking heck, I've got to get my blinking skates and I've got to get over that top now to... emergency ward 10. See you later.
See you later, mate. Bye now.